Everyone thinks buying a business is risky. But what if I told you buying an existing profitable business has a 95% success rate? And what if I told you the 5% that do fail usually fail because of a few common mistakes, not because business acquisition doesn't work? I'm Ben Kelly. I have over 7 businesses that generate over $850,000 a year in profit, and I'm still actively acquiring businesses in 2025. Today, I want to address the biggest concern that I see from my audience, which is, what if it doesn't work? The truth is, if you're willing to follow a proven framework and do the things that someone else is doing before you, the odds are going to be overwhelmingly in your favor. Let me break down the real numbers and show you exactly why buying an existing business is still the safest wealth building strategy in 2025. When we talk about business acquisition success rates, we're looking at over a 95% success rate after 5 years post-acquisition. Now, these statistics that I'm talking about come directly from the SBA. This is not just me. They have their own data based on all of the SBA backed loans out there, and you can look at this data because it's the federal government and all of it is open source. We can go in there and track to see if these businesses are still paying their SBA loans with no delinquencies 5 years later. And then we can take the number of the loans that were given out and the loans that are still around 5 years later in good standing, and we can see that those acquisitions are moving along exactly as they should. Now, compare this to startups where 95% of all startups fail within the first 5 years. It is the exact opposite statistic. Now, this makes sense because when you start a business, you are literally starting from scratch on a product or on a service, finding employees, on finding your clients. And so the failure rate being so much higher makes sense because you're taking on a lot more risk when you're starting a business. We're not going from 0 to 1. We are literally acquiring the one that had already made it. Most of the businesses that we're focusing on have been around for decades, and you can see how they performed through the last financial crisis all the way back to 2008. The 5% who fail typically fall into a couple categories, and understanding that is going to make you more confident, not less. Now, the biggest killer is poor due diligence. These are people who ignore the obvious red flags when they're looking at doing an acquisition, and also don't get a professional to look through the business's financials to make sure it's actually making the money that it claims to be making. Another category that people miss on is buying it using the 3 pillars that we talk about. We want businesses that are recession resistant, we want them to have recurring revenue, and we want them to have some type of barrier to entry. Another one is overpaying for businesses that don't have the proper management in place. And instead of buying a business and being able to extract themselves out of it, they're literally buying a full-time job. Another mistake is that the day after they acquire a business, they try to go in there and change everything about the business, instead of taking time to understand exactly how that business runs, making sure that some of the changes they want to make are not going to ruin the momentum that a business already has and what made it successful in the first place, and implementing those changes slowly over time. People who usually go and crash and burn are the people who walk in day one, say my way or the highway, try to make a huge amount of changes, and guess what? They lose the confidence and support of their employees, and the business plummets. And one of the most important factors is trying to jump into this without having any type of help or understanding or advice from people who are doing this actively for years. The failure rate isn't because business acquisition is broken. It's people making avoidable errors that proper training would have prevented. Now, let's put this into perspective. If someone said, hey, I want you to take this bet, that 95% chance that by doing this thing, you're going to change your wealth outlook for you and your family forever, would you take that bet? A 95% success rate. Now, the businesses that we're targeting have been around typically for 20 plus years. They've survived multiple economic downturns, and they have decades of financial data showing that they've been making money for year after year after year. These are not trendy startups or risky ventures. They're boring, essential services that people need regardless if there's a recession or not. Even with AI taking over everything, even in a shaky economy, people are still going to call a plumber when their toilet leaks. They're still going to need their AC fixed when it's the middle of August and it's 100 degrees outside. Think about garbage collection. This business is never going to change until the point that we have little robots like Wall-E going around and collecting everyone's garbage. HVAC companies, plumbing companies, accounting companies, pest control, cleaning services, all of these different types of industries are not going anywhere as long as there are people that need these items. When you buy an existing profitable business, you're buying existing cash flow. You're buying established customer relationships. You're getting trained employees, and you're getting documented systems that got them to where they are in the first place. Now, the SBA loan process in and of itself is going to give you more confidence because the bank is going to be doing their own due diligence on this project as well. Before they're going to give you $1 million to buy a business, the bank has a a whole team that goes through the financial records of that business to make sure that it can sustain the loan that you are taking on to buy it. You're not betting on your ability to build something from scratch. You're betting on your ability to maintain and eventually grow something that already works. The biggest risk isn't that business acquisition doesn't work. It's that you'll spend the next 10 years wishing that you had started it the previous year. While you're worrying about the 5% chance that it doesn't work, you're missing on the 95% chance that it does work and changes your life. Most of the people who are afraid of the risk are also working jobs where they have no control over their income, they have no control over the conditions, and they have no control over their future at that company. You want to talk about real risk? Think about the risk of you continuing down the road you're already on. Maybe you're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Maybe you're not making enough that is supporting what your goals are for you and your family. That is the real risk. Also, if you have a family, would you rather be spending more time with them and controlling your schedule, or your schedule is always at the behest of someone else's business? Think about it like this. Instead of spending the time and energy to make your own dream come true, you spend all that same time and energy making someone else's dream come true. To me, that's way worse than any other financial risk that you're taking on when you're doing a proven strategy that has over a 95% success rate. At least with business ownership, you have more control over the outcome. If you follow proven systems and get proper guidance, then the results can be predictable. The students who succeed are the ones who realize that the biggest risk is not doing anything to get started. They understand that buying a proven, profitable business is actually less risky than a lot of the other things out there they're thinking about when it comes to creating wealth for them and their family. It's also a lot risky than thinking that your employer is going to take care of you and your family for the next 30 years. If you're not willing to bet on yourself when the odds are 95% in your favor, what will you do to change your current financial situation? One of the things that sets me apart from other people teaching business acquisitions is that I'm still making acquisitions now in 2025. I'm not some guru who did a few deals a couple years ago and now just teaches people how to go and do it. I'm doing exactly what I'm teaching. In the last few years, I've acquired deals like a marine upholstery business for $600,000, a drilling company for over $3 million, and now my main focus is acquiring accounting firms. When you're learning from someone who's still actively doing deals, you're going to be getting advice that's helpful to you right now in the current market. Most people who are teaching this stopped years ago actually doing deals, and they focus just on teaching and courses, which is okay. But the way I go about doing it is that if this is something that's such a great wealth builder, why would I stop doing it? My students who actually follow the framework that I teach are even having a better success rate than 95% because they're learning from someone who's actively doing it themselves. They learn how to identify businesses using the 3 pillars that I talk about and learn the golden ratio so they don't spend time on bad deals. They understand proper valuation techniques so they don't overpay for businesses. They understand how to structure deals using creative financing so they can limit their downside when they're acquiring a business. Most importantly, they're getting their work checked by people who know what they're doing and telling them when there's red flags that they've missed. The students who struggle are usually the ones who don't follow the proven framework and decide that they're going to do it on their own strategy. When you have access to someone who is still actively doing deals like me, you're going to avoid the mistakes that are going to lead you to join the 5% club. Look, I can't guarantee that everyone's going to succeed in business acquisition. There is risk in everything, business acquisition included. But if you're willing to follow a proven framework, learn from people who are actively doing deals, and put in the work to do the proper due diligence, the numbers are in your favor. The 5% who fail are usually trying to do it on their own, doing it their own way. They're shortcutting different corners, hoping to save money on the front end so that they can get their deal done. And it usually leads to heartbreak. And that's why I created Acquisition Ace, to give people access to the same systems, the same proven ways in which I go out and evaluate businesses to purchase. I want to give my students a better than a 95% chance at success. If you want to learn more about how to stack the deck in your favor and join the hundreds of students already who have successfully acquired a business, I have something for you. My Acquisition Ace program walks you through the entire process with direct access to me and my team who are still actively doing deals in 2025. Check out the link in the description if you want to see what it looks like to work with someone like myself and my team who are actively doing deals right now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.